Hi, Andrew Marty from Saks, and welcome to video number 1 in our 8-video series on the psychology of managing staff remotely. This series will be all about explaining to you the theory about how to manage staff remotely, but to give you some really practical tips about how to do so. This video is all about trends in remote work, and then we'll work our way through a range of really important topics about remote work. Things like how to ensure that we're recruiting the right people for remote work, how to ensure that we're skilling people up to work remotely, how to ensure that we're keeping engagement and well-being high. But this video particularly focuses on trends in remote work. So what this diagram shows you is that the proportion of people working from home versus working totally in the office really hasn't changed that much over the course of 10 years in Australia. So that's an interesting narrative, isn't it? Because I think the perception is that working from home has increased rapidly. But what about the United States of America? The statistics were that pre-COVID-19, about 16% worked remotely at least some of the time, and that more than doubled between 2005 to 2015, which meant that they had a slower start but quicker growth. The current proportions in the COVID world, we simply don't have the data yet. I'm sure that we will have the data soon, but right now we don't have the data. But let's talk about what organisations are intending to do. The new normal is likely to be influenced heavily by the experience of COVID-19. The first thing is that many companies have found that it works great, so concerns about it have evaporated. Many people running companies traditionally have thought, well, you can't do this work from home, but now they've discovered that yes, you can. Economically, they've found significant benefits from not having to pay so much rent, and of course that's an important thing in the profitability and sustainability of any organisation. Mass commuting is an environmental, public health and lifestyle nightmare, and so it does really raise the question about why you would want to have millions of people going to and from offices if you can possibly avoid it. And of course now technologies have improved and everybody's found that they can use Teams or WebEx or Zoom, and we're much more technically ready for all of this stuff. Here's a really interesting phenomenon which is part of the trend of working from home. What you'll see here is the stats for the United States of America of a phenomenon called the Great Resignation. And what we see here is that the percentage of workers resigning from their jobs in the American workforce each month was relatively stable from early 2019 up to October 2020. And then when the COVID-19 pandemic was declared, then it dropped markedly. So the rate of resignations declined very rapidly. In July, there was a spring, and then in particular in recent months, there has been much more of a spring. The Great Resignation is a phenomenon that's been observed in a range of different countries around the world, in the West in particular. So America, as I've shown you, has experienced it, but in Germany, for instance, they're saying that the numbers of people resigning from the workforce in some months has been as high as 6%, which is phenomenal when you think of it. And there's been a lot of qualitative investigation about why this is happening. And one of the reasons appears to be people are forcing me to go back to work in the office when I don't really want to. In other words, people have had a taste of work-life flexibility and have really valued it. And so they don't want to be dragooned back into the office. So I think that one of the things that organisations need to consider as they're planning where to from here, do you really need to mandate that people come back to the office? Is there a possibility for a hybrid model? Is there a possibility to allow people to work where they want to work, provided that you can ensure that there's high levels of accountability? And by the way, the 7th video in this sequence is all about measurement of performance in a remote working situation. There are some trends in remote work, and the very next video in this series is remote work a good thing? Join us for this next video to find out.